Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Golf Strong podcast. It's a Thursday. We're about to talk about some arthritis. That's my whole intro. I got nothing better than that. As always, with my man, Dr. Tim Rivotto, who everybody, a giant round of applause for the new dad.
Hell yeah, man. It's exciting stuff. It's fun. Not much sleep, but hey, here we are.
Not much sleep. And naturally, they decided that, we're just going to wait. We're going to wait it out. We're going to find out if this baby's a boy or girl when they come out. We're just going to hold out. I applaud you for that. I will not be able to do that.
It was like easy initially, and then as you get closer, you're like, why don't we just find out? Like, wouldn't that be kind of cool? And then you're like, no, it's been 8 months. You gotta hold out.
Stick it out. You gotta hold.
You've got the devil and the angel on your shoulder. Like, come on, it'd be nice to find out.
It's like the greatest gift of all time. Like the most beautiful thing in the world is having a child, and you're like, we don't have to know what they're gonna be.
We'll see.
I don't know. But baby boy.
Little baby boy. Yeah, highly recommend it.
Baby. Hey, listen, after Tim and I off air, we're talking about, I was in New Orleans this past weekend for a wedding. And after seeing the creatures walking down Bourbon Street and the children just rocking no clothes,
That's the style.
Lord knows I'm gonna have girls because of that, but
and the world might be better for it. It might be better for you to have daughters that are actually, fine, upstanding, respectable women.
I'd have badass girls. They'd be in jujitsu when they're able to do stuff. I'll have them shooting at targets when they're 3 years old. They'll be pretty awesome.
Perfect.
But. Whew, you just can't unsee. For anybody that's not been to New Orleans, it's unapologetically repulsive, but it's fun. There's no better food in the world. I've never had better food in my life.
And just Cajun, pure fun everywhere, right? Pure fun outside,
they have
everywhere.
Open container lodge. You can walk around drinking. There's crazy people everywhere, which isn't always a good thing, but it's good for some laughs.
Yeah.
It's all night long. People are, for a couple of days, it's nice. The Garden District is beautiful. It actually kind of reminded me a little bit of Boston. Kind of like the old houses built on top of one another, but it was nice. French Quarter, you go from beautiful restaurant, homelessness, people peeing on walls, everything smells like vomit and urine and booze.
Sounds
5-star hotel. Strippers. It's really an interesting place, but a lot of fun nonetheless. So we are going to rock out arthritis today, which is a hot topic. We talk about it often with clients and patients of ours. Very misunderstood and really abused by the healthcare system in terms of what people are told about arthritis. It's this big boogeyman that we have to be terrified of. So we're going to debunk some myths on that, talk some misconceptions, discuss what you need to know about arthritis and how it applies to you, the golfer, and what that looks like, especially long-term as we move forward. So that's all going to be on the agenda today. I think we might even talk a little Rory McIlroy after a big win this past weekend where he looked like Superman. I guess everybody did. There was 15 people over 15 under.
It was a shorter course. It was 6,800 yards or something like that. So you're always going to get some low scores, but you still got to hit the shot. So still played very, very well.
Yes, it was. I won't argue that because Morikawa was one back. Also, Ricky Fowler, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. Had himself a Saturday.
I need Ricky to be back.
I think so. We might be on the verge. We'll see. Rory said he thinks he is. He was watching Ricky closely. He said that in one of his interviews.
Yeah.
I think we're on the verge.
So close. I need to see the big orange just out there.
Orange on Sunday.
That's right.
Love to see it.
All right. So let's start off with a little bit of a definition here. So a lot of people, what we should really do is send out a survey to all of our social media people and ask them, what is arthritis? What do you think arthritis is? Because a lot of people have these misconceptions that it's like, well, arthritis is, a bunch of inflammation inside of my joint, or arthritis is when I'm bone on bone, or arthritis is when I don't have enough cartilage, or everybody has these like weird misconceptions about it. But truly, osteoarthritis, which is the operative term that we'll use, is a condition that basically means you have joint pain, stiffness, and limitation that affects your motion at a joint. That's what arthritis globally is. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's inflammation. It's just a condition that's stiffness, pain, and you have trouble moving the joint. That's what arthritis is. Generally speaking, when we're looking at like where arthritis affects, the knees is number one by a landslide. Most people expect it's like 80%, around 80%.
Yeah, up around there.
Affects the knees. And then after that, you've got, hips, hands, any joint can have arthritis. That's right. The point of it. But that is what arthritis is. It is any kind of pain, limitation, stiffness at a joint.
Yep. And usually we're talking people older, right? So we're talking usually over 45 or over 55.
Right.
So, you could have
not uncommon in younger people.
Yeah. You can have some conditions in really young kids that are usually more genetic conditions. And then you can also have, people in their 20s and 30s who either had some sort of serious injury or I don't know, certain extreme cases, but large portion of what we're talking about is in older people. And when we talk about that population, it's really normal, as you said. I mean, to a degree, you're gonna get a certain amount of arthritis in every joint in your body if you live to a certain age, right?
Which is natural. Which is a normal thing. But that takes us to the fact that most people will say, especially your older population will say, well, it's all the wear and tear on my joints from the years of tennis, specifically. So we're talking about golf. It's the years of golfing has resulted in me having arthritis in my back, arthritis in my knees, arthritis in my hips. It's the wear and tear that has resulted on that. That's probably the most common thing that people will hear and listen to. Do you hear that same thing? I mean, that is what I hear all the time.
Yeah, no, that's number one, wear and tear. It's from, it's from all my years of playing high school football and, all those summer practices. Right. It's from, years of cycling on the weekends and just wearing out my knees. It's from, all those rounds of golf. That's far and away number one.
Right. And again, that albeit contributes, using your joints can contribute to them having arthritis long term, but you're also forgetting the fact that you have genetics plays a role in your Big arthritis. Time. Injuries plays a role. I mean, so anyone on here that's listening that's had a meniscus tear and they've gone in and they've cut that bad boy out, you don't have a meniscus in your knee anymore. So generally speaking, we see an increase in the amount of arthritis that occurs at the knee. I just had this conversation with a patient recently that they wanted to do a meniscectomy. They wanted to cut it out. And he's like, my knee doesn't really hurt. So, I don't know if I really want to do that, especially because I really don't want my knee replaced right now. He's like 62 years old. And I was like, don't go get it done. We'll conservatively treat this first, and then we'll go from there. A lot of people are getting meniscus surgeries, especially when they cut the meniscus out, and they're expediting the process of the knee. I'm going to say degrading, although I don't really like using that word, developing more arthritis and possibly leading to the future of a knee replacement. And I don't know why they wouldn't do that, especially when it's so common for them to have arthritis in the knee. And right. We can talk about meniscus surgeries later, but they're way too often performed.
Yeah, and you have to realize, you're basically when we're talking about arthritis, we're talking about cartilage, right? And right. Cartilage just basically coats the ends of your bones, right? So in your knee, it coats the end of your shin bone and the end of your thigh bone. And it's meant to slide and glide and help things move smoothly when you bend your knee or bend any joint. Over time, to a degree, that's going to kind of, it may wear out, but it's a very low blood flow area, right? So as long as we're moving and kind of getting blood flow in those areas, you should be pretty much fine. I mean, I tend to find that the people that get it the most are like I've had a couple of people who are lawyers, and they sit at a desk all week, and they're like, oh yeah, I just like, they never move their legs. They're just sitting in the same position all the time. And I think it's a big time blood flow kind of a thing.
Yeah,
You know,
I would say that. We also have so much evidence to the fact that loading is good for, I mean, the number
Yeah.
one defendant, like, which we'll talk about this later, against arthritis is actually moving, is loading the joint.
Right.
And to your point, if people are sitting all day long, my average person that has like really nasty arthritis is not very active.
No.
They're not very active. So we'll kind of dive down that rabbit hole, but I want to go back to something that we talked about a little bit earlier about wear and tear and what that can lead to. So a lot of people, you just talked about cartilage, right? So I'm losing my cartilage in my knee. I've lost the cartilage. I have no cartilage in my knees. That's a common thing that you'll hear is I have no cartilage. I'm bone on bone. That's your biggest thing. And so physically speaking, sure. Could you be quote unquote bone on bone? Yeah. If you've lost the cartilage at the ends of those joints, as Tim was just talking about, sure, your bones are interacting more than they normally would. It doesn't mean that there's like nothing else in there. You still have the fluid of the joint. You still have all that motion. But that is something that scares people. So from a belief standpoint, which we can talk about a little bit more, I think that's the biggest thing is that people look at arthritis as this big omen or this bad omen that they're going to have A, pain, and B, something's going to have to be done about it. I've got to get my knee replaced, or there's a vulnerability involved in that. So if you say to me, hey, Jackson, your knees are, you've got a lot of arthritis in your knees. It's really bad and it's bone on bone. And, I'm not really sure what we can do about this. I now feel vulnerable. I feel like I have a disability, so to speak, like something is wrong with my knee. And that is the most common thing that I see when it comes to arthritis, specifically in golfers, where they come in and they go, I've just got so much arthritis in my wrists, or I've got so much arthritis in my hips. I can't make a good turn. I can't hit the ball with the same power that I had. It's hard for me to get my hip. Like it hurts my knee to walk the course. And they view themselves as fragile, which is the most common thing that I am seeing is that my bones are becoming bone on bone. They're degrading rapidly. It's only going to get worse. It's going to create more pain as time goes on. And there's really nothing I can do about it. And I'm essentially fragile.
Right. And I think that brings us to the second question I'll ask people. So I'll ask them, how do you know you have arthritis, or do you have pain, and then I'll ask them, what are you doing about it? And usually the answer is nothing. Right. And I think because it is so scary sometimes when you hear bone on bone, or you hear, you'll hear, you have the knees of an 80-year-old and you're like 40 or 35. And you just get scared out of doing anything. And there's always something that you can do. Right.
Right.
Almost always the human body is designed to move and to interact with the environment around you, to interact with people. So that's a big part of this is you've got to get moving and not only get your joints moving so that they're, being used in the way that they're designed, whether they have cartilage or not, right? They're designed to move.
Yep.
And then let you get back to your life, because I mean, there's a real, emotional component to pain. You see people with depression and anxiety having more pain. You see people that don't have social interaction having more pain. So, we've got physical, but then we've also got that, being out on the course with the boys and having fun for 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday.
Very true. Very, very true. And so you talked a little bit to that emotional component. That to me is one of the bigger pieces. And I say emotional, I'll even call it cultural or social, where what your doctor tells you about arthritis or what your family has told you, or whoever it ends up being, what your friends, oh, you've got arthritis. You're going to have to get that replaced in a few years. That plants seeds in your head about what arthritis is. And they're not good seeds. Right. You'll oftentimes. So one of our biggest things that we'll hear is because I've played so much golf, because I've swung the club so much, that's why I have arthritis. It's the reason I got arthritis. Or because I've worked in construction my whole life, or because I've done whatever. That's why I have arthritis, and that's why I have pain. And Tim just spoke about the fact that that's not the pain is complex. It's multifaceted, right? There's social components, there's cultural components, there are physical components. There's no doubt that that physical plays a role in that, but that's not everything. And so one of the things that I debunk with people pretty quickly is that I have arthritis because of swinging the golf club or because of walking courses my whole life. You'll see this, the easiest examples in running. If you've run your whole life, you're going to have arthritis in your knees. I'll be very clear. We have basically zero evidence that that is true. Lifting weights, running, golfing, any sport, we don't have proof that there is a direct correlate between arthritis and the sport, especially because we just talked about earlier, loading is the best way that we handle arthritis. It creates better self-efficacy, better tissue loading ability, stronger muscles, better joint health, which if we're talking about arthritis, best way to improve your joint health is to load the joint appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can speak to being a runner that it sound at a first glance, like you'll hear a lot of runners say, well, I have thousands of miles in my legs, right? So my legs are shot. And it's at first listen, it's like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. But then you think about it, there are elite runners there are guys that win marathons into their 40s, and they've been running since I probably could walk, they were like competing when they were 14, 15. So when you look into the running research, a lot of people that get pain, knee pain and arthritis, related pain in running start later in life. They start after the age of like 40.
Yeah.
So it speaks to the protective effect of really starting young and being active young to set the foundation for the rest of your life, because you can definitely do it safely starting later on, but you're going to have to probably do a little slower ramp up, or at least mix things up a little bit more, just because your body isn't used to moving or being used and that sort of thing.
Well, and part of it too is that people have this misconception that arthritis it's going to constantly go down or get worse. Like it's always going to get worse. And the reality of it is that arthritis for everyone is variable completely. Some people experience it more, some people don't experience it. Key factor, there are people that if you were to look at x-rays of them, you're like, holy shit, you're riddled with arthritis. Yeah. All of your joints are full of arthritis and they have no pain whatsoever. No issues to speak of at all. And then somebody else who's got very low arthritis, really not a whole lot, and they are super pain. So understanding that and providing that to people is key. And so that they're not feeling like this is only going to get worse. I'm only going to struggle with this longer over time. And it's a result of me doing something that I like, which is something you don't really want to have that in your mind correlation, like, oh, golf created this and now it's stopping me from golfing.
Right.
If you were to get hit in the head with a golf ball, like, yeah, sure, golf called that, but it's not the same as like I took a bunch of swings until my back is riddled with arthritis now versus the drunk guy in the cart hit me.
Yep. It's interesting when you look at there was one study through the ages where it compared industrial age people to modern day and their rates of osteoarthritis and like arthritis related pain. Way lower in the industrial age. And you think, if you heard like, I don't know, maybe your older uncle or your grandfather talking about that, like, oh yeah, that was backbreaking work. It really wasn't, because they didn't have as much arthritis. Like it wasn't as common.
Yeah.
It makes you think, like, the big difference is that we don't walk places anymore, really, right? You get in your car and drive there. You sit at your desk to work all day instead of like walking around your farm or, walking around a factory or standing all day or, doing something physical. It's interesting.
Well, to that end, we're just sedentary today. Like as generally speaking, we are a more sedentary culture. I mean, to this day, the number one killer in the United States is heart disease. Number one, which isn't, for the most part, a very preventable disease. Certainly there's genetic components there, but 1,800 people a day, roughly 1,600 to 1,800 people a day die of heart disease. Right? We're just obesity. They're talking about 50% of our population being obese. very soon.
Yeah, that's a crazy number.
That's a huge number. And when you want to talk about arthritis, you want to talk about pain at a joint. If you are putting more weight into a joint than is really supposed to be there, excuse me, holy smokes, we're burping on air. This is terrible.
Getting gassy.
What is? Yikes! Release the Kraken. No, I was probably more dry heaving after watching the Red Sox yesterday. But anyways,
yeah, we don't talk about that.
But so back to burping and obesity. This is great. Being heavy is not going to help your cause. Putting more weight through that joint than it is really trying to carry isn't going to help you. I mean this kindly. Most joint replacements I see are not fit people.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not. Most joint replacements I'm seeing are generally overweight people who exercise relatively little in a clinic sense.
Yep, I would agree. And older, overweight, not very active. But I mean, you think I have a buddy who I'm helping lose some weight, right? And he just went from 270 to 244, right? So 26 pounds. Right. That's like we're both having kids. That's like 3 babies.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like off your body. You think about it in that regard, and it's like, wow, that's a lot.
Yep.
So it's a lot of extra you're carrying around all day, which, potentially will make, I don't know, you see some overweight people with, I have a friend who's like, I have huge calves because I'm just carrying this weight all day. It's like, well, that's great, but you have all this extra weight on you, on your stomach, on your, around your organs. It's just not a good thing. And then your joints are taking that much more stress.
Well, and forget the physical component of that for a moment, although that plays a role, but think of just the systemic problems there, like global inflammation from however you're eating, thinking about wherever your hormones are. And I'm not saying that we're going to get into like a hormone debate here, but generally speaking, being heavier, you're going to have higher issues, higher blood pressure, heart issues, lung issues, cholesterol issues. All of that plays a role in your joint health. Right, the nutrition of your body plays a role in how everything works. And then again, we can go back to the point of, the emotional state of your life, depression, anxiety, all of these kind of things. And so, arthritis is multifactorial in what affects it. Right, that's the key thing that we want to talk about or explain to people. So for all of our golfers listening, understand a couple of things. Number one, arthritis is normal. Completely normal, right? I think if you look at, over the age of 45, like almost 45% of people have arthritis and are asymptomatic. They have no symptoms. They have no pain. They have nothing. So most people have it. It's completely normal, right? That's number one. You have to understand that just because a doctor says, oh, well, you've got arthritis, that's fine. It's like wrinkles on the inside is what I'll tell people. You get wrinkles as you age, you get arthritis as you age. It's a normal part of the aging process, right? So that's number one. Number two, just because you have arthritis doesn't mean it's going to get worse. Mm-hmm. It's not always going to degrade over time. So we have this concept that we become fragile, which is really the biggest thing that we want to avoid. We want, on our last podcast, Alex used the word robustness. And I freaking love that word. I want to use it from now on. You need to feel confident in yourself that you are robust. You have a level of robustness to add to the world. But that's a very important factor. One, arthritis is normal. Two, it does not mean it's going to get worse. It does not mean that you are fragile in nature.
Right. And there's no quick fix for arthritis, right? It's going to happen to a degree. You're going to lose some of your cartilage in your joints as you age. Some of the treatments you'll see where the people get like shots of, hyaluronic acid into they're essentially trying to like carpet bomb your joint with the cartilage cells, hoping they're going to stick and grow. It doesn't really work like that.
No,
it's not going to hurt anything, but it's really not going to help anything either. So the things that have shown to help with slowing down that breakdown, if it is going on, are loading the joint, doing things like squats, like, just different movements depending on the joint you've got the arthritis or the pain in. Different movements to load that joint gradually, get it stronger and stronger, and, go from there.
But Tim, what about Tylenol? What about steroid injections? What about, glucosamines? And, what about taking Voltaren all the time or putting Voltaren on all the time? Like, don't those things, change the joint or help the joint or get rid of the arthritis in there? Don't those do all of that?
I'm sorry, negative. Just gonna be, you're gonna be masking your symptoms. That's it. You'll feel better, potentially, for a little bit.
So, other thing to consider is understanding that what he's saying is that those things can help, but also you get a meaning effect from them. If you expect something to work, it is more likely to work. So when we look at steroid shots and we look at Tylenol and we look at Voltarens and we look at, taking glucosamine.
Which one was that?
Did you ever see Bruce Almighty?
Yeah.
Where he's like dubbing him while he's on the radio station. Like, my tiny little nipples went to France.
That's what it's happened to you? Someone just possessed you?
My dog just did that just to laugh. All right, buddy. No, glucosamine.
Here we go.
Glucosamine chondroitin. Shit.
Yeah.
Anyways,
if you can't say it, it doesn't work. That's where we're going to leave
seriously,
it.
it's too many ingredients. All of those things, the steroid injections and all of that versus placebo tend to show absolutely no difference. So a lot of people get a huge meaning effect out of, I expect this to work, and then it works. Certainly there's some anti-inflammatory properties of some of those things. But again, just because we said arthritis doesn't mean there's a bunch of inflammation in the joint, right? Pain is caused by a lot of things, so we're not really sure. So although those things can be supplemental, right? They can be add-ons. They are not our first course of action against arthritis. They are not the first thing that we want to do when it comes to that. Personally, for me, well, let me ask you, Tim. So what's the first thing you want to do with somebody who's dealing with arthritis? A golfer comes in, hey, my lead knee, my left knee is really bugging me. I've got a lot of arthritis in there. I don't really know how to, it's bothering me to turn. I get into my downswing and I can't finish. What do I do? Where would you go with that kind of person?
Well, first things first, I'm asking them, how much they're playing, when during the round it's happening, all that. And then what they're doing for it, if they're doing anything, right? So are they going to the gym before their round and getting on the bike for 30 minutes? And, does that help at all or not? Try to get an idea of what they're doing as far as that goes. From there, does it feel like that's helping or not? Because sometimes people do stuff just because it's like it's habit, but it doesn't make anything feel better. And sometimes it makes it worse. Like I've had people that do that. They're like, well, I went out for a long bike ride this morning and my back flared up really bad. It sucks to sit at my desk, but I have to do it. It's like, well, I don't know why you're doing that. So we want to find out where they're at. How much activity causes how much pain? How long does it last? And that'll give us an inclination as far as how sensitive this is. I don't like to say how bad this arthritis is, right? I tend to say how sensitive is this arthritis? Because when we think about it, you do when you have arthritis pain, there's, as you said before, there are people that probably have a knee or a joint that looks exactly the same as you, but have no pain at all. So we can't just blame that. I like to call it sensitive versus bad. But yeah, that's where I start. Where do you tend to start, just as far as the conversation goes?
Same place. The only thing everything you just said is the truth. The only thing I add is what people believe about it. So for me, a lot of times we go to like the second thing, which is like, especially in like the PT and strength world for people like you and I, where we do want people exercising. We want to load them. Again, exercise doesn't fix everything, but it sure helps mitigate a lot of the bad things that can happen. But for me, you can't start doing that stuff until I understand where you're coming from. So you'd already talked earlier about like, well, what have you done? How is it working? Is it doing anything? But I want to know what people's beliefs are about arthritis. Well, what have people told you about it?
Mm-hmm.
Have they told you that you're bone on bone and that you need a knee replacement and that, you really shouldn't play golf this much because, it might degrade further? All of that helps me to approach them in a better way, because I could be a jerk and be like, arthritis is nothing to worry about. You're going to be fine. And then I've challenged their belief, and that tends not to help. That people tend to back into a corner. And so I'm better off getting to know their beliefs on arthritis, on injury, on where it came from, on if they think there's anything they can do about it. And then I can start to, plant some seeds about, hey, arthritis is pretty common, as a matter of fact, but it can be a really devastating thing for people. It can really bother people, but this is what we can do about it. This is our best options to deal with it. And a lot of times, even in the same breath, if people are like, oh, well, I've had an injection in there and I take this, I like putting ice on it, or I like putting heat on it. When people ask me my opinion on that, my first question is, does it help?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If putting heat on your knee makes it feel better, put heat on your knee. I'm okay with that. If it makes it feel better, go ahead and do it. It's just not going to be the only thing that we do. Right? I don't want to destroy people's whole concept of how to get better if they get relief from something. But once they get some relief, are we doing the real things necessary to help them get better from there? I think that's where we get a little bit in the weeds, especially as clinicians and strength coaches, with clients. And those of you listening that are golfers, a lot of times people might be like, oh, you're using the Theragun all the time. Like that's your only thing that you use, or I foam roll for everything and that solves all my problems. Well, if one of us tells you, well, you're an idiot, you shouldn't do that, that's not going to make you trust us. And it's not going to help your knee arthritis. We're not changing anything. I'm not helping you play better golf. So it's important in my mind that when you talk to a clinician or you're speaking to somebody about your arthritis, or they've spoken to you about it, that they're trying to understand your point of view. What do you believe about this? Okay, these are your beliefs. I got it. We can structure around that. Okay, you like to use a little bit of ice here. You take aspirin a couple of days a week. Okay, I see what you're coming from. Does that stuff help? Oh, yeah, a little bit. All right. Well, this is what we can do about that. Right. So let's dive into that, Tim. So biggest, most effective things that can help people with arthritis. Right. So number one, load management.
Mm-hmm. And
Tim, tell the people.
Honestly, for this, I keep it super simple. My buddy and I talk about this all the time. We're like, it cannot be this easy, but it really is. We find a movement that's painful, right? So with a lot of people that have knee pain that I see, it's either like a squat, so you're like sitting and standing, or it's like a split squat. So one foot's forward, one foot's back, and you're doing the same. You're moving up and down. Right. I have them go to the point where it's a little bit painful. I usually give them like some kind of a window, and I say, okay, I want you to do this until your muscles around your knee, like your quads, get tired. And that's it. And then we, as whatever we start with gets easier, we make it harder and harder from there. But I literally just have them go to the edge of some discomfort, do a bunch until you're tired. And then as you keep doing it, that like edge you can go into goes further and further. And there we have it.
Boom. End of story. So the easiest way to look at arthritis in terms of how we approach it, best evidence, mind you, this isn't some like bullcrap that we're concocting out of nowhere. Our best evidence against arthritis at this point, or at least not against arthritis, but to handle arthritis, load management. Tim just talked about that. So for instance, if you're getting up and down from a chair and that feels okay, but if I give you a 5-pound weight and it bothers your knee, that's too high of a load for where your tolerance is, to movement right now. So if that's our ceiling, then we'll stay below that, or maybe 10 reps is bothersome, but 8 reps is fine. Awesome. We're going to hit that 8 rep range for a few days. And then we're going to go maybe to 10. And then maybe we'll add an extra set. And then maybe we'll add some more weight, whatever it ends up being. So golfing, an easy one that I see with people is, I can play about 9 holes. And then it starts to get a little sore. Fine. Go play 9 holes. And then when it starts to bother you, you're done. And then in a week, after we've added some other things in, how much can you play now? I played 11 holes and then it started to bother me. Awesome. Fine. Come on back. Right? It's load management. The other part of that is graded exposure. We're gradually exposing you to higher volumes, higher loads, higher velocities with your club head. I've had people who especially if they've got like shoulder discomfort or shoulder arthritis, where I'll be like, hey, we're just going to go with like a 3 to 9 swing, 50%, just a nice cut. And that feels okay. I'm like, okay, let's expand that a little bit. Okay, now let's expand that or let's use some of your other clubs. And let's expand that. That's graded exposure. You're gradually exposing the tissues to higher loads, which is managing the load over time. And then just generally speaking, physical activity. Can I get people to hit the physical activity guidelines, which Tim and I have talked about before? We can revisit them now. So 150 to 300 minutes of moderate aerobic activity per week and 2 days of whole body resistance training per week. If you can just do that, you have helped mitigate the effects of arthritis, air quote time. Anything more to add to that?
No, I think then, that's the minimum where to start. And then if you want to add more, you can always do that and work with a professional like one of us that can help structure that for you. Because you are going to have a sensitive knee. So if you push it a little hard, it might bark at you for a week or two or, a day. But that's all part of the process.
Tim just made a super good point. A lot of people don't know where to start when it comes to this stuff. They're like, well, do I squat? Do I lunge? Do I press? Do I not press? Do I play golf? Do I not play golf? That is where guys like Tim and I come in, right? We step into that gap of unknown between like, I don't know how to handle this and the answers. Like we will help you get to that point. And so knowing that like, hey, how's that feel? Oh, that's a little uncomfortable. And then we can give you a variety of options. Obviously, most people, if they just take the information we just said, can do this on their own, right? I'm not here to be a snake salesman, right? A lot of people are capable of figuring this stuff out, but having the accountability of people that understand what you're going through is a helpful part, right? And a good coach will know that, be it guys like Tim and I, or a good, strength coach that's local to you, or a good PT. If they're not talking about loading you, go find somebody else. Right? If all they're talking about is dry needling and TENS units and heat and ice and massage, and if that's all they're talking about, you're seeing the wrong person, because they clearly don't either know, they're either ignorant to it, or they don't care about you performing better on the golf course.
Right. You can't always just rest or wait for things to heal and get better. You have to do something actively to get better. And yeah, if you're not doing it, you're just hurting yourself. You're kicking the can down the alley.
Amen to that. Also, as always, sleeping. You have to find a way to sleep. Sleep is one of the biggest things people miss. Yeah. And this is, forget arthritis, name a condition. Not sleeping enough will affect it. Tim understands that right now. He's a new dad. I understand that for the last 6 weeks because I'm a new puppy dad.
Yes.
And we went to New Orleans for a wedding this weekend.
Not much sleep there.
And a wedding tomorrow. Next weekend's Halloween. The next weekend we have another wedding.
Wow.
It's just like...
Keep the train rolling, baby. Let's go.
It's wedding season. Oh, what a great movie.
Excellent.
I wish I could be... Actually, so the guy that's wedding is tomorrow. One of my buddies from grad school. And so all of our buddies first got to know me because... Or my best friend from grad school will say... Yeah, so the first time I met him, he basically just talked about how he had watched Wedding Crashers like 10 times in the last 2 days and could quote every line of it. And that's why I knew we were going to be friends. Oh, it's such a fantastic movie.
It's an excellent movie. Excellent. Even
Those
on
guys are
TV,
cool.
that's how you know it's good. Even on TV, when it's edited, it's still good.
Oh yeah, that's not the X-rated edition. I like it. All right, so we have discussed
That's arthritis.
arthritis. Simple. Don't overcomplicate arthritis. Stiffness, lack of motion, pain at a joint. That's arthritis, right? Can affect all the joints in your body. The knees tend to be the most affected. Most people think that it's bone on bone or there's a bunch of wear and tear because of what they do. It's getting worse or it's abnormal. It's only going to get worse as I age. None of that is really true in like its own little ways. Best ways to fight it: gradually load up the joint in a range of motion that doesn't super bother it, gradually over time. Sleep well at night, eat well, make some love once in a while. There you go.
That's it. And we don't say this to belittle, like if you have arthritis pain, to belittle that. It's real. It can really suck. Like arthritis pain can be super shitty.
Absolutely.
But you have to do something about it, as we just discussed.
Well, and you have to put the ball in your own court.
Right.
If you think that it is causing you all this pain and it's limiting you and it's because of outside factors, you're only going to lose, right? We call it an external locus of control, where you think that outside forces are basically like, I can't do anything because it's bone on bone, right? Well, we want to flip that script. We want to make it where you are in control of the issue. Okay,
right.
I've got arthritis in my knee. Here's what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to get in the gym. I'm going to take care of my nutrition. I'm going to watch how I'm sleeping. I'm going to do all of those things so that I can impact this, as opposed to it's bone on bone. There's nothing I can do. I'm vulnerable. I'm fragile. End of story. That's where you don't want to be. You really don't want to be there, because that's only going to hurt you. And that only perpetuates it, because it's not going to make the arthritis worse probably, but your perception of it, your sensitivity to it is increasing. You're more aware of it. It scares you more. And that's only going to lead to more fear and anxiety. And as we talk about in this podcast all the time, you are responsible for your own life.
Yes. That's a good transition to what's going on with Rory, because I think he's having a little bit of that realization himself, that he's got to take things into his own hands and really, clean up his act.
And be okay with being him.
Yep, exactly. So he, I'll chop up a couple of clips and throw them in here. But he had a really interesting question or answer to the question of, did you have to convince yourself that you were? It was essentially, did you have to convince yourself that you're a winner, or that you still had it to win? And he said, kind of, yes. Like you have to realize that you have the game to win because you've won before, right?
Yeah, I guess, like, I knew, I shot, I was 9 under through 2 days here and didn't feel like I played my best. I left a few out there. I made a triple bogey on the first day, so I knew there was a low weekend in me. And then to shoot, the most of the work was done yesterday to shoot the 10 under and get myself into the last grip. I knew today it was just a matter of, just keep applying the pressure, keep hitting fairways, keep hitting greens. And if I do that, I feel like I would have a really good chance.
And okay, then last thing for me, you talked a little bit yesterday about routine, mental stuff, visualization, things you're working on. Yeah. Is there any way you can elaborate a little bit more on what you're trying to do, and is any of it post-Ryder Cup related?
Yeah, I think it's, so I don't even think it's post-Ryder Cup related. I think it's just post the last 6 months related, in terms of I need to, I said to Kira out there on the broadcast that I feel like the last couple of weeks I've realized that just being me is good enough. And maybe the last few months I was not trying to be someone else, but maybe trying to add things to my game or take things away from my game. And, I know that, when I do the things that I do well, this is what I'm capable of. I'm capable of, winning a lot of events on the PGA Tour and, being the best player in the world, something we talked about at the start of the week as well. So it's just a matter of me getting back to playing golf. I'm playing golf my way. And that starts with being creative and being visual, and maybe sort of, sifting through the technical thoughts and not maybe being as technical with it.
And he said he wasn't necessarily trying to be someone else, but he tried to add too much to his game, where he just recently started focusing on his strengths. Like, what am I good at? What got me here? Let's make those so fucking good that no one can beat me. Boom. He found himself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To your point, he took onus. He took responsibility for what I like that he said is that he was doing something that wasn't helping. Realized that and decided to correct it. I think too often, especially with golfers, well, I don't say especially with golfers, but with all people, you see them where they go, I really wasn't doing anything wrong, but I just like, you're too good to have screwed up.
Right.
Like, that dude was devastated at the Ryder Cup. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad we whooped their ass, but it's one of the best golfers in the world who played awful for most of that weekend. And to be able to say, you know what? I don't need to be looking for anything. I don't need to be somebody else. I don't need to act like I'm somebody else. I don't need to be so hard on myself. I just need to go out there and expect to win and be me. Like, being me is okay. Because everyone was talking about him trying to be Bryson or hit the ball further, which I think as a whole, we can talk about this. I think a lot of the golf world is feeling that way right now. Everybody wants to hit the ball further. Everybody wants to get big and jacked and all these things. And sure, some of that can be helpful, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a great golfer. Like, as good as Bryson has played, he's not the best golfer in golf.
Yeah, he doesn't win every weekend.
He doesn't win every weekend. He competes, but he's had some tournaments where he sucked. Because that's golf. But each person has to play their own game.
Right. And that was part of Rory's thing too. The next clip I'll put in was about his practice, where he said he was just working on stuff for no reason. Just working, like he needed a long list of things to work on.
I've got nothing coming up for the next 4 weeks. I've got 4 weeks at home before I go to Dubai. But it's 4 weeks to build on what's just happened here. Work on some, I think that's the thing as well. The last few months, I feel like I've never worked as hard, and I got so little out of it, but I didn't get what I wanted to get out of it. Where, I just need to just be a little better with what I practice and when I practice. And as I said, like, the whole week leading up to this, all I did on the range was try to visualize every shot that I hit, try to see draws, see fades, see high, see low, and really just play around with it. And the more and more I did that, then the more it feels comfortable on the course doing that. And that's playing golf. That's just getting back to hitting shots. And when it boils down to it, that's all you need to do out there, are hit the shots. And sometimes I forgot that in a quest to try to be too perfect, probably. But this week was a great reminder that you don't need to be perfect to be a great golfer. Probably the Sunday singles at the Ryder Cup. I went out against Xander, and like, all I wanted to do was win the point, right? Like, that's all I could do. Couldn't do anything else. Hadn't done much else the rest of the week. And I went out there and I won my point by doing whatever I could. I wasn't trying to be perfect. I wasn't trying to hit shots that I wasn't comfortable hitting, or I went out there to try to win my match, and I did. And I think part of the sort of emotion at the end of it was to do with that week, but it was also probably to do with the last few months in terms of searching to try to get better, and sort of the realization that I don't need to search for anything. It's all right here.
Awesome,
thank you.
Back to Doug Ferguson with the Association.
So that every time he was out there, he was thinking about all these different things, and it just tripped him up. He said he got back to just being creative and trying to shape shots versus thinking about technical, my hands need to be here, I need to turn there, and right. Focus on the little inner workings, just focus on the outcome and having fun and being positive out there. So
Just be an
he
athlete.
right. So he said he went back to just practicing that way versus hitting 1,000 balls and working on 1,000 different things.
Well, and he'd also talked at some point about like being the perfect golfer
Mhm.
and how that's just not realistic. Like you don't have to be a perfect golfer to be a great golfer. There's no such thing as perfect. Perfect is unreachable. We should always strive for excellence, but there's no such thing as perfection. You know, in my mind, perfection is found by the pursuit of excellence. That is perfection, right? It doesn't mean it's going to be you make every shot. You know, it's the Jordan mentality of, you know, every shot I take, I think it's going in. And then the next one I think is going in. And the next one I think is going in. And then I just let my body go from there. It's not going to be perfect, but you're going to be good. I think Koepka, I posted this the other day where it was like, if you win 2% of the tournaments you play in, you're like a Hall of Fame golfer. 2%. Right? Perfection isn't even close.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, you look
You
at.
shut me off.
Sorry, I had a little screaming baby in the background, so I muted it.
Come on, little man. It's like, I heard you talking some shit about Brooks.
Screw Bryson. Yeah, so what I was saying was Tony Finau, you look at him, he's coming second a bunch in top 5, top 10s, hadn't won in a few years, but he's still top 20 ranked in the world. You know, which is something Rory also said. He's like, I was playing, everyone was saying I was playing terrible golf. I should retire, and I'm number 14 in the world. He talked about how he played in his first European Tour tournament with some guy, I forget the name. He was 18 in the world at the time, and he's like, that'd be nice. That would be really cool to be like number 18 in the world. So, I mean, it's just perspective too, where you've been, where you've come from, what you've achieved, because obviously he was number 1 in the world for a long time. Yeah, it's just interesting now that he's realized, hey, this is my goal when I was 16, just starting to play professional golf, was to be in the top 20. I'm there. I've done more than that, and I'm still there.
What is he, 32?
Yeah, 32, maybe 34. I think he's 32.
32. He's something like that.
Yeah.
So again, not an old man, especially in golf. Like the dude's probably going to play for another 30 years on tour or something crazy.
Yeah.
Like he could easily do those things. But the moral of the story is that he has made the decision that I was trying to be something I'm not in one way or another. I was focusing on ancillary things. I was trying to be perfect when perfect isn't real.
Yeah.
I just need to go out there, try to be the best I can every day, take responsibility for the fact that things are tough. And to your point, have some perspective on what I want or where I am in this game. Like, this is where I am, and that's okay. I'm going to show up, and it's going to undulate.
Yeah.
Look at Spieth. I mean, Jordan Spieth went from Superman to nothing, and now he's kind of heading back towards Superman.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to have consistent performance all the time. It's going to wax. It's going to wane. It'll have its ups. It'll have its downs. But your consistency and not letting the highs get too high, the lows get too low, and enjoying it is half the battle.
That's all part of the Jordan mentality, right? When you go out for the big game, you don't think, oh no, this is a big game. You think they have to deal with me. Like this is, these motherfuckers have to deal with me. That's what he used to say.
I love that. I love that. I need to rewatch that whole series that came out. Like just watch them talk just about like, this is my expectation. I expect to win at everything. He talks about being on the airplane, like playing some kind of game with the guys in the front. They're like, dude, we're playing for like $5. He's like, I don't care. I want your money in my pocket.
Yeah, he's throwing quarters with the security guard.
Yeah,
quarters.
Yeah,
I mean,
he just wants to win.
Yeah,
he just the guy was a winner, but he didn't expect everyone else around him to just acquiesce to that.
Right.
Like it was, I'm responsible for winning. Like no one's responsible for me shooting a better free throw or shooting a better jumper or making the right play. I'm responsible for that, and I won't always make it, but I'm going to shoot it.
Yep. Get out of my way.
Which was the Kobe mentality too. Kobe just shot it more often.
Yes. Team
I love
on
the
his
story.
back.
The story that Shaq told about like how the guys on the team were like, "Yo, Shaq, can you go talk to Kobe about like not shooting the ball so much?" And Shaq's like, it's like there's no I, or there's no we, or there's no I in team. And he's like, but there's an ME in that motherfucker.
Yeah. Yep.
I think he told that story at his funeral.
That's Kobe.
I thought that was like the best Kobe story ever.
It
Then
is.
Shaq walks back and he's like, just rebound. Kobe ain't passing you the ball.
Yeah, it ain't happening. If you get it, shoot it, because that's all you're getting.
The end of the story. I like it. I think that's all we got, man.
I do too, and I got a screaming baby, so I got to go see what's going on.
Yeah, you probably got to go check that diaper.
That's probably what it is.
It's got a blowout up that back.
Yeah,
Ooh,
we had a grace period of like 3 days where it didn't smell. We're out of that
gone.
grace period right now. It's
You can
unfortunately.
probably smell it from where you are. I'm ready for the story of your first blowout, where it's just like up the back into his hair.
Yeah, we didn't. We were maybe halfway there last night. It was one of those. I opened the diaper. There wasn't anything. There wasn't like anything serious. And then as I got to the back half, it was much worse.
It's getting worse. No, it's all the way up.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that wasn't too bad. Oh, here it is. It was just hiding.
That's disgusting.
Yeah,
sounds exciting. Happy daddom.
Thank you. It's fun.
Welcome. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, give us a follow. We're on the socials at Rivotto. Is it Tim Rivotto? Rivotto.golf. There it is. It's on the screen now for us. Follow him over there. I'm at Jackson.AnchorForge. As always, you guys need anything, make a comment. The stuff you want us to talk about, subscribe, click the bells for notifications, all that YouTube stuff. If you're listening on the Spotifys or the iTunes, give us a like, give us a rating. Tell us how much we suck or that much you love us. How much you'd like your beard to look as grizzly as mine.
Yes.
And, that's
as
it.
Also, as
Also,
mediocre as mine.
Shout out to Black Rifle Coffee Company. This is my favorite shirt. You see it?
It looks like a snake.
Yeah, it's our.
Don't tread on me.
No, not quite. It's
Almost.
It's the join or die. So it's the snake with all of our 13 colonies, but it's coffee or die.
Coffee. I like it.
Black Rifle's the best. I'm a basic white girl, and I've got their pumpkin right now. It's like the Headless Horseman. It's fabulous.
I bet it is.
You should get some. Maybe I'll send you some. That'll be a gift I give for you and the baby. I had a different gift, but I like that gift better.
That would be beautiful. Either way. Be much appreciated.
All right, people. Have a great day. This will be out ASAP. Go get some.
That's it. Later.
Bye out.